Hello and welcome to the Tuesday Checklist on a Wednesday, the show where we all sit down for show and tell with our favourite gaming experiences. Sifu punched its way onto PS4 and PS5 yesterday, and we just can't get enough of its brilliant combat. And of course, those lovely elderly mechanics. Look at them go. With our epic kung fu skills, we feel like complete and utter badasses. So we couldn't help but ask the question, what is the most badass we've ever felt in a game? Rob, care to share first?
So the most badass that I have ever felt in a video game, I've thought long and hard about this because there's obviously been loads of instances where you play as like Batman in the Arkham series. You constantly feel like a badass in those games. All action, punching bad guys. But then I remembered the most badass I ever felt, and it was more like a cool badass. It was in Hitman 3. When
Are we going to have to keep saying badass? I just don't think I can say it. I don't know. There's no way of sounding badass.
That's the title of the video.
I know. Why we picked that? Well, yeah.
Because badass is a badass word.
It's two. Is it 2 words? Anyway, tell us. Hitman 3.
I felt like a real bad ass when
that's better.
When I was playing, that's the British pronunciation, when I was playing Hitman 3, and it's the very first level. It's in Dubai, in the skyscraper, and you've got 2 targets you've got to assassinate. One is called Carl Ingram, the other is called Marcus Stuyvesant, and one of my favourite ways to do it, it's like a double kill, is to sound the emergency alarm, at which point Marcus Stuyvesant and Carl Ingram will attempt to evacuate the skyscraper. But what you have to do is make it so the helicopter can't take off, so they can't escape via the helicopter. And what they will do then is they will go to the emergency parachutes and both jump off the skyscraper with their parachutes on. But obviously what you can do before that, if you've planned it well, is sabotage both the parachutes, and like with a knife you can just stab a little hole in both of the parachutes without them noticing. And so you do this sort of... And what I like about Hitman is you can do everything while walking. Walking is the default mode of moving around in Hitman. And there's something innately badass about walking around, I think. Especially when you look, he's there with his suit and his stoic face, just casually walking around, waiting till there's no guards around, quickly stabbing the parachutes, sets the alarm off. And what I really enjoyed about this particular moment, and I'm not sure if I'm ever going to be able to recreate this in the capture, so apologies if you're not seeing exactly what I saw this one time. But I did this method, I sabotaged the parachutes, I set off the alarm, but instead of waiting to watch them both put on the parachutes and plummet to their death, I just thought to myself, I'm just going to walk straight to the exit now, because I know in about 5 minutes this chain of events will unravel and they will both jump off the top of the building, their parachutes will break and they will fall to their death. I don't need to watch it happen. I'm just going to casually walk away. And so I just casually strolled in my badass way down through all of the stairs in my Hitman suit, and I reached sort of like the bar area of the skyscraper, which has these huge windows that look out across the city of Dubai, and you can see just the sky. And I happened to be walking past these windows at the exact time that Marcus Stuyvesant and Carl Ingram just plummeted to their death outside them. So it was me just walking past, and and it was just like the things popped up like, mission complete, targets assassinated, and my handler was like, well done 47, and the music started building up to the mission complete crescendo, and I was just walked out. It was like a cool guys don't look at explosions type thing. I was literally walking away from the window as they both dropped to their death behind me, and I just felt amazing. I was like, yeah, like proper James Bond level, suave, smooth. No one had seen me, completely undetected. No one knew what was going on, and these 2 guys just plummeting to their death. It was the most... I could not have timed it more perfectly, and I don't think I'll ever be able to recreate it, but it was very, very cool.
And that's why the pictures you're seeing now are related, but not.
That's why what you're seeing now is me just going on a murder spree through the Dubai level. But it's representative. It's representative of what happened that
Very
one
representative,
time.
yes.
I was also thinking long and hard about this because a lot of moments where I felt like a badass have been in like hard challenges such as Crash Bandicoot. For example, I'll just say that I can't think of any others right now.
Rosie, you are hard challenges in every game you've played and finished. Like
I'm trying to think of a character who is less badass.
Yeah.
Yeah. Are you saying that's not badass?
So cool.
But and also like you said, Rob, with Batman, I was like, every time I play Yakuza and I'm Kiryu, I am the most badass being in the world because Kiryu he's the most badass character in video games. I'll just just plop it down there. But I've gone for something different because I always talk about those games. So this is something I always feel badass whenever I do this, and it's whenever I play a golf game like Everybody's Golf and I get a hole in one. I'm someone who, like, when I get a hole in one, I'm like...
Just imagine the commentary on the PGA Tour on TV. Oh, that is badass! Hole in one!
Just like...
I just like seeing, I'm just like, grab my putt and I'm like... My drive just...
I can't believe this, Rosie. Of all the things I've seen you do in gaming, like the challenges you've pulled off, the moments you've come right to the cusp, like the Crash Bandicoot challenge. I know we've made fun of Crash Bandicoot, but the Crash Bandicoot Stormy Ascent challenge, the Final Fantasy VII, the bosses that Rob couldn't do that you've done. Sorry, Rob.
Well, let's talk more about that.
A triple platinum in Uncharted on a stream because you did it all in one go. Like, yeah, then you go, I like golfing. Like,
when I get a hole in one on golf.
Whoa, tell me. Well, no, that's what I mean. Everything I was thinking about is just games that I've always spoken about. So I thought, what's a badass moment that not a lot of people might know when I feel like a badass? So I was just thinking of every time when I play a golf game, and like I looked through my Twitter and I saw that like I played Everybody's Golf on PS1 and I took a picture of it, and I remember that time when I got a hole in one when I played that. It was like a couple of years ago, and I was like, wow, I really did feel like a badass when I did that. And golf with your friends, if I get a hole in one in that, especially on a course where it's like, you're bouncing around everything, I'm like, ooh, hole in one, and I feel really proud. And I'm sensing just the disbelief and silence in the audience.
I think
But it was either going to be
enjoying it.
What we're going to need, Rosie, is you capturing you getting a hole in one, and then I want some badass music playing over everybody's
as the ball just like drops in.
Yeah.
Well,
And then you need to finish with the Thug Life glasses, but like they're just 2 golf balls.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the thing, you don't do it a lot. I'm not saying, I don't get holes in ones all the time, but so that's what when you do get a hole in one, you feel like a badass. And I was like, it was either this Super Monkey Ball when you do like a really cool maneuver and then you get that goal and you're like, boom, look at that time, I'm smashing Super Monkey Ball, or in Dig Dug when you get rid of all the squares, then you've just got like a little the void arena because you've got rid of all the dirt in Dig Dug. Sorry. I tell you.
The entries we could have had. I don't know. This is.
I thought I'd spice up. The video and the entry a bit. And so yeah, when I play, I love golf games. They're my like sports game kind of like. Yes, I love playing a good game of golf. So this was, and then just those couple of moments where I do get a hole in one. I'm a boss. I feel like an absolute boss.
I'm happy for you, Rosie.
Thanks, Rob.
I golf after all the things you've done. I am also pleased for you. I'm happy that that's your choice. I'm happy
it's the least badass sport. It's like guys in chinos sort of casually walking around.
I don't watch
carrying
actual
some
golf.
sticks and God, it's just so stupid.
That's what I mean. I don't watch actual golf or anything like that. I don't know much about it. But when I play a video game golf and then I get that hole in one, but I don't know what video games do. But it's like you see the little graph, and sometimes if it's crazy golf, then there are obstacles, and you're like, oh, I'm gonna angle this, and you're like, poof. And then when you get the bouncing off, and then it goes into that hole in one, and then you're like, oh, it's great, it's great.
The mechanics of golf, as explained by Rosie.
Yeah, you have the little graph, and it goes whoop whoop. Then you do that, and then you got to make sure it's accurate, and then you go. Poof.
I'm really surprised that no one has mentioned any set pieces by now, because obviously I think that's the go-to badass moment. And Rob and I were talking recently about Uncharted set piece, and specifically the sort of Jeep chase in Uncharted 4. And I mean, that is just ridiculous and undoubtedly one of the best moments I think I've experienced in a game. But those feel very I don't know, like you're supposed to feel like a badass then. So I wanted to think about something different, and I was thinking what really makes me feel good and in a game. And I think it's not when the game kind of gives me a moment on a pedestal, but it's more when I kind of learn something. I find that when you get a gold star, when I get a gold star, when I figure something out for the first time, without any kind, just taking. It happens very specifically, I think, in games where they don't hold your hand, they don't tell you anything. First of all, funnily enough, I was thinking, this is my version of the golf hole-in-one, I think. I was thinking about The Witness.
That came to mind for me as well. Like when you figure out a puzzle, you're like, oh my god. It's so
good, because there's no writing in that game. It's just like, here's a puzzle, and you just have to figure it out.
Like we're confusing badassery with genius here. Like,
yeah, but it's a badass brain.
Are you saying a genius?
I don't think that I'm confusing genius with badass, because I think that, first of all, genius can be badass. And what I think is badass is not feeling
rule.
like...
Nerds rule, Rob.
It's not doing something I couldn't otherwise do, like, hanging off the back of a Jeep and in mud and shooting guys off of bikes or climbing. It's finding out something about myself, like solving a mystery, solving a puzzle. It makes me feel good, and like I've connected with the developers. And I think the best example of this is Outer Wilds, which I know I've talked about a lot recently to the people in this video and anyone else who will talk to me about it, because I absolutely love it. And that game is the epitome of telling you the bare minimum and expecting you to go out and solve it. And the best example of that in the game is the Quantum Moon. So Outer Wilds is a game whereby you play a kind of an astronaut, and you're basically just in this kind of star system, and you just go off to explore, and you soon learn about this nomadic species that was existed thousands of years before you were there, and you start to uncover what they were doing, where they came from, where they went, and you learn about this quantum moon that they found in the solar system, and it's a moon that appears and disappears seemingly at random. And at first that is exactly what it is. It's just a moon that appears and disappears at random, and you don't know where it's going to be at any one time. Then you sort of figure out just from experience that as long as you're looking at the moon, it stays there. It never disappears whilst you're looking at it. It will as long as you can see it, it doesn't move. Kind of like weeping angels or I've never seen Doctor Who, but Rob's told me about them, and they don't move, right, when you're looking at them.
No, that'd be very stressful to have a moon as a weeping angel.
Then you look away, and it's just right there in front of you.
And then you figure out, so I was like, you learn that this quantum moon's very important to this race, this long dead race, and it was like a pilgrimage to get there. You learn that people managed to get there, and you can get there because you try to fly to it. Once you get into the atmosphere, it becomes foggy and it obscures the moon, and so you kind of fly right through it. It disappears because you can't see it. So for ages in the game, I tried to get there and I couldn't figure out how to get there. Like, how can I keep sight of it when as soon as I get too close, it disappears? So I tried like leaving my ship and sending my ship in. I tried to go in just like as a little astronaut by myself. And in the game you have a camera, and I've realized that if I took a picture of this thing and I kept the picture up, it was as if I was looking at the moon from wherever I took the picture. And so I got so excited trying this. I was like, oh my god, wait a minute, if I take a picture of the moon, does that count as me constantly seeing the moon and it won't move? And the first time I took a picture and flew into the moon, I was literally like on the edge of my seat, like, oh my god, is this going to work? I can't. Is this it? Have I done it? And it worked, obviously. And that game is, about exploring, and unlike any other place that I went, everywhere you go in that game for the first time, you're obviously exploring, and it's the first time you've been there, the character, and you, the player. But this moon, it felt like I was the first being to have been there in thousands of years, and I had just used my brain to get there. You know, the game didn't tell me, try taking a picture of the moon. You know, it was no hint. There was no it seems like the camera does interesting things with the quantum moon. You know, there was no hint. There was no rumor. It was just pure deduction.
Jackson.
Pure deduction. And I was just so excited. And honestly, though, that is just one example. I could have picked 100 examples in Outer Wilds. The whole game is about those moments. But I've maybe made it sound a bit punishing, but it's not punishing. It's really clever and fun. And I think everyone should play it, and then you can feel as badass as me. Also, I've now revealed how to get to the quantum moon, so I've made it a bit easier for you there. But there's so much else you have to do.
You're going to take this picture and be like, why don't I feel like a badass? Come on.
He said it'll make me feel cool. It's just a picture of a blob.
So the time I felt most badass in a game, when I was thinking about this, I was thinking about gameplay moments. So Doom came up when you've got the really cool soundtrack and you're smashing things in half and ripping heads open and glory killing. I love glory killing. Glory killing fuels me. I just love that, makes me feel so badass. And I was thinking of Carrion, where you're basically this amorphous blob that goes around a science facility and consumes all the scientists so that you can free yourself and be a happy, free amorphous blob. Even in something like Skyrim, where you just do the slow-mo kill and they fall over and you're whoosh, with the arrow, and then you see it pierce their face, or you decapitate them. I love decapitating people.
Decapitating slow-mo kill in Skyrim is the most satisfying thing ever. It's
the one.
Games that let you...
Especially when it's someone who seconds before has trash-talked you.
Yes.
I'm going to bathe in your blood, they say.
Especially when there's no way to guarantee it as well, you know?
Yeah.
Sometimes it just goes, have a little decapitation.
I feel like decapitating is my favourite game mechanic that's been brought to games. But to get to my actual entry, I thought about it a little bit more, and I was like, as much as I enjoy all these things within gaming, the moment that felt the most badass, where my mouth was hanging open, I was like, oh my god, this is amazing. And the only word for it, I think, is awesome. In the classical sense, not awesome, but as it is awesome, would be the ashtray maze in Control. This is something else. And I know Dave spoke previously about us not mentioning any set pieces, so I feel like this is good to have as a set piece moment that is the built-in badassery. And the ashtray maze in Control, you can find it early in the game and go and look at it, but it just leads you around in a circle. It's basically a corridor where things kind of flicker open, the walls flicker open, you can go through, and as you go through they flicker open and change. So it's a maze, and you've got to try and figure out. It's called the ashtray maze because I believe the item of power that's connected to it is an ashtray. You're basically trying to work out this maze, and you get to it and it just leads you in a circle round and round to the beginning over and over again, and you find a sign that's saying it's out of order and you've got to go and see RT the janitor. So late in the game, almost at the end of the campaign, you can see RT the janitor, and he will give you basically a pair of headphones, a little Walkman, and you need to put them in to go through the ashtray maze. So you get there, and Jessie gets out her little headphones, gets out her little song and puts it on, and Take Control by the Old Gods of Asgard starts playing, which is this full heavy metal, death metal song that's just distorted guitars, and it starts playing, and the walls start opening up for you as you go, because you've got the concentration of having the song playing basically, and you can get through the maze, and it's basically this beautiful cinematic moment where the doors are opening, you're running through, the hiss start appearing, so you're fighting things as you go through. You're at the peak of your power because it's quite late in the game, so you've got all of your guns that you want to use, you know how to fight, your powers are going on, so you're just throwing people across the room, just shield blasting them. It is just epic. It's so good, and the rooms change, the monsters change, you're just taking them down do. It's so good. It's so good as a set piece. It's the most satisfying thing I've ever experienced in a game. And if you haven't played it, as much as that maybe feels like a spoiler, I feel like I cannot replicate the feeling of what it is going through that without you doing it yourself. I feel like it's one of those moments that as soon as you do it, you're oh my goodness. And Control is like, it is full of those. The Ashtray Maze is definitely the best one. But there's, in the DLC, there's another one where you can like ride through like a cinematic train kind of sequence where you're on like a floating platform. And another one at the very, very end of the game where you're basically coming up against your final enemy. And the board, which are this big triangle in the sky that kind of talk about your powers and stuff that you get throughout the game. They grant you unlimited access to all of your powers and all of your health and everything. So you're going through this red room of hiss that's like boiling and full of monsters, and this guy's waiting for the end of it, and you're just at absolute full maximum power, blasting people out of existence. Felt like Danny DeVito, like, and then I started blasting. But yeah, I just...
The most badass of all the actors.
Yes, he actually is, though. He actually is. But yeah, the Ashtray Maze is absolutely chef's kiss. Like,
I feel like you're right back there. I feel like you're right back there now. It's like, it's intense.
I know. If they gave me decapitation in there, I would be,
But have you ever scored a hole in one?
Yeah.
To be honest, yeah.
You can decapitate, or you can score a sweet hole in one.
That's true. I mean, it's the same feeling. It's the same thing of just like, you know, a gaping hole.
We gotta stop with this.
No one judges here. And
Every week. Filth. Every week.
Phil, I'm talking about a neck hole.
yeah, what are you talking about, Rob? I'll go next.
Thank you, Rosie.
You're welcome. Oh, that was nice. Whack it out. As in, like, the time, not anything else. Okay,
What?
hang on. I think about how to start it.
Just
and then
commanding everyone, whack it out now.
That's why I quickly corrected myself. And I was like, no.
There's
On
the outtake
webcam
at the
as well.
end.
No.
There's the outtake at the end, taken care of. Is everyone ready? And whack it out. Now.
This is not the outtake. I'm the editor. I am not making this the outtake. It's inappropriate. It's rude. Anyway. Look, you know I meant whack it out regarding the entry and saying it in time. We're on a schedule here, guys. Speaking of, let's wrap up this video. What's the most badass you've ever felt in a game? Let us know in the comments below. Please like the video if you've enjoyed it, subscribe if you'd like to see more content like this, and hit that notification bell so that you stay up to date with the world of PlayStation. Thank you all so much for watching.
PlayStation